I talked about it last year in a video. My concerns about why the NFL media seems to not like Cam Newton, and I presented arguments at that point in time, and some disagreed, but I think a lot ultimately agreed. But here we are in the 2015 season. The Carolina Panthers are 9-0. They're first place in their division by 3 games. They are the runaway leaders in the clubhouse right now to end up with home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. You've got Cam Newton, to me, a serious contender as an MVP candidate in spite of his passing accuracy numbers. When you look at his impact on his team, what he means to his team, and what he doesn't have around him compared to other MVP candidates, like let's say a Tom Brady or a Carson Palmer, 2 other real legit candidates for sure. To me, you look at what Cam Newton has to work with and what is expected of him and what he does, and the fact that his team is 9-0, I think it makes him as legitimate almost of a candidate as Brady, or in this case, Palmer as well. But instead of talking about this guy who has clearly become the face of the Carolina Panthers franchise, who has become the franchise quarterback I ultimately envisioned him being coming out of Auburn, former Heisman Trophy winner and national champion, now has the Carolina Panthers poised to strike and a legitimate threat to make it to Super Bowl 50 and perhaps even win it, a guy who's led his team to 2 straight divisional titles, 2 straight playoff appearances, a playoff game win last year. We're talking about his fucking dancing. And I just don't get it when it comes to Cam Newton. We're criticize his dress in the media, criticize his methods of tearing down a banner. We criticize his dancing and celebrating on the field. It's like it's always something. There's always some type of criticism and some type of critique for a Cam Newton. And you can draw your own conclusions as to why. But here's what bothers me about this whole focus and hubbub about him dancing and celebrating late in the game against Tennessee. You got some of the Titans players talking about how they thought it was uncalled for. It didn't reek of professionalism, needless to say, and they thought he should know better as a franchise quarterback and so on and so forth. Here's what I got to say about that. One, if you don't like it, then fucking stop him. It's similar to baseball, where pitchers and teams get all upset when a guy hits a big home run like Joey Bats did for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he does this monstrous bat flip. If you don't want the guy to fucking do it, instead of next time coming back and being a punk bitch and beaning his ass, how about you strike him out or get him out so that way he doesn't hit the home run? If you don't like it, then don't let it happen, and the only way to not let it happen is to stop him. If you can't stop him, then you deserve whatever the fuck the hell happens. Now, it's not like Cam Newton sitting there pulling down his pants and whipping around his helicopter schlong at every fucking buddy when he dances. He does stupid little dances. Okay. Am I necessarily always the biggest fan of a dance in the end zone? I don't know. Coming from a school, back to the days of Walter Payton, act like you've been there before. Barry Sanders, act like you've been there before. I've always been the biggest fan of it, but the game of football ultimately is a game. It's entertainment. And I miss the old days where the NFL wasn't the no fun league. The days where guys actually could do certain celebrations and they brought something. There was a flair to it. There was dramatic to it. Now we call them for unsportsmanlike conduct and taunting and all this other dumb shit. If they start high-stepping, if they taunt players, we've pussified the game a little bit. So for these players that sit there, the same players, mind you, that if they sack Cam Newton, they're most certainly going to dance and celebrate, whether their team is up 20 or down 30. If you don't like Cam Newton dancing in the end zone, then fucking stop him and stop your bitching and figure out how to stop him. And for other people that want to sit there and criticize a franchise quarterback like Cam Newton for doing that type of dancing, do we criticize a Tom Brady if he does something like some big dramatic first down point or something? No. We call that attitude and we call that leadership. And to be fair, it is. And he pulls it out in an appropriate time like he did last year. And when we're on to Cincinnati, he pulled it out then. It was attitude. He did take leadership and ownership of that team. He put him on his fucking back. But imagine if a Cam Newton in a similar situation does the same thing. I guarantee you the fucking result would be different. And yes, while Tom Brady's not sitting there and doing all this choreographed crap, and he's not thrusting and everything else. Carson Palmer did a fucking crotch chop to the damn Seattle crowd in the Sunday night game. If we should be talking about anything being offensive, how about pooning on Carson Palmer, another one of the legit MVP candidates this season, and deservedly so? He's sitting there crotch chopping the crowd. But instead, we're focusing on Cam Newton and his end zone dancing. That somehow has become a bigger story, and gee, I wonder why that is. You've got Drew Stanton when Andre Ellington's running down the sideline. Everybody's talking about how cool and awesome it is. This guy is doing this dance and everything else. Couldn't we sit there and make the same argument that act like you've been there before, even though he's not even on the freaking field, and show some class and some dignity? It's one thing to get excited and pumped up, but you're doing all this choreographed shit. If a Cam Newton does that on the sideline, imagine what the fuck the reaction is going to be. If a Peyton Manning did something like that, we talk about how it's the greatest thing ever. Chicken parm, you taste so good. Omaha, Omaha. Oh my God, it's the new dance craze. Do the Peyton. Do the Peyton. Do the Peyton in the playoffs. Do the Peyton. Do the Peyton regular season. Do the Peyton in the playoffs. Let's make that a fucking dance move. And watch, nobody would have a problem with that. Oh, we'd think it would be Peyton Manning being cool and hip and showing himself to be the representation of Black America's quarterback and all this other dumb shit. But Cam Newton does something like this, and we're fucking bothered by it. You got people talking about it on this shit and that crap, and we're writing articles and wasting time about it. You got moms writing in talking about how offensive it is that he's doing that crap. Oh, shut the hell up. There are plenty more far offensive things in our day-to-day lives. If you're so worried about this one football player doing this one dance, then maybe you need to reprioritize your life, you dumb bitch. Maybe, just maybe, you need to be a better mom to your kids. I'm just saying. For the people a couple of weeks ago that got all pissed off when he took down the damn sign, and that became a big thing. It's like it's always got to be something involving Cam Newton, and sometimes maybe, yes, he does things that draws attention upon himself. But when a Phillip Rivers is sitting there doing all his gyrations and talking all this shit and talking all this trash to opponents, we think that's cool. That's fiery. That's personality. That's leadership. That's a franchise quarterback. Cam Newton does similar type of things, and we question his maturity, and we question his leadership, and we question his attitude, and we question his commitment to winning and his understanding of his roles and responsibilities. Am I the only one here that sees the fucking hypocrisy? To the people a couple of weeks ago that put the fucking banner up. I don't care how much you paid for the damn seats. Ultimately, it's Bank of America Stadium. And if the management there determines that your sign goes and they confiscate it, that's tough shit. And when it comes to the management of Bank of America Stadium and the Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton is it. It is his fucking house. I'd have been disappointed with him if he would have let that fucking sign stay up. I don't give a shit. Because if a Tom Brady goes over there and yanks down that fucking sign, if a Peyton Manning goes down there and yanks down that sign, or even if a Russell Wilson or an Andrew Luck, God forbid, went down there and yanked down that sign, we talk about how they were making a stand and they were making a statement. And it was them letting everybody know that this is their fucking house and you're not going to come in and do that type of shit. When did sports become so pussified? And when did we become so fractionalized and so hypocritical in who we choose to criticize for what and how? I just don't get why the NFL media hates Cam Newton so much. I just don't. It's so disappointing and frustrating. We don't hear about Cam Newton shooting up shit. We don't hear about Cam Newton getting into a bunch of trouble off the field, hitting women, raping women, Big Ben, Greg Hardy, many others. Seems to be a guy that's a good soldier for the league. Seems to be pretty good and involved in the community. We focus so much on the stupid shit like the dancing and the freaking signs. We don't talk about what Cam does when he gives the football to a little kid that Julius Peppers wasn't trying to give him. He threw it away. All of this crap, all the different work that Cam Newton does in the community and everything else, instead of focusing on these things and trying to actually present him as a positive role model who just happens to go out there and play a kid's game and chooses to have some fun. In the same way we will look at somebody like a J.J. Watt every time he does a fucking sack gets a sack or he scores a touchdown, he does a nay-nay or he does something else, we think that's great and awesome because he's one of the faces of the league and he's in all these commercials and we're making him that next great hero like we once did Peyton Manning. How about we show Cam Newton some of that same courtesy and some of that same fucking respect? Some of the fans and their attitudes toward Cam Newton kind of sicken me, but really it's the NFL media and the way they choose to cover and, creatively cover at that. Some of the things involving Cam Newton, that's what's sickening to me. And that just shows me some of the deeper-seated issues we have as a society. If you don't think they exist, if you don't think they're there, look at the hypocrisy and the treatments of quarterbacks who do similar things to Cam Newton and other players who do similar things to Cam Newton and the attention that they don't get for it compared to what Cam Newton has done and did and the attention that he gets for it. I don't know if this is some deep-seated shit going all the way back to the Auburn days. I don't freaking know. If it's because he plays in Carolina so he's not playing for one of the glamour franchises, I don't know. Is it because he threatens the mantle of guys like Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson as that next tier of elite NFL quarterbacks? I don't know. But it's time people get over it and start appreciating Cam Newton for all the good things that he fucking does and stop holding him to this clear-cut double standard that is unfair and to me, yeah, I'll go ahead and fucking say it, rooted and deep-rooted at that in at least prejudice, if not some racism.